The shot that changed how men moved. March 14, 1945. Dawn breaks cold and colorless over the ruined outskirts of Wesel, Germany. The Rhine lies only kilometers away, swollen and grey, its banks scarred by shell craters and shattered trees. A light fog hangs low, thick enough to blur silhouettes but thin enough to betray movement. Somewhere in the half-standing upper floor of a bombed-out textile warehouse, a rifle barrel rests on a folded wool coat, steady as stone. She has been awake for hours. Senior Sergeant Anna Morozova, Red Army sniper, does not blink as a patrol of Allied soldiers edges into view. British accents drift through the rubble. These are not ordinary infantry. Their spacing is careful, too careful. Faces smeared dark, weapons held low but ready. Special Air Service. Veterans of North Africa and France. Men trained to read terrain and avoid exactly this moment. Anya adjusts her breathing, slow and shallow, matching the faint sway of the scope. Her rifle is a Mosin-Nagant M91/30, serial one smoothed by years of use, fitted with a PU optic. She knows this weapon the way other people know their own hands. The metal is cold even through gloves. The smell inside the ruined building is dust, damp brick, and old smoke. She does not rush. The patrol halts. One man raises a clenched fist. Another steps forward, crouching, scanning windows. He is doing everything right. And still, his head lingers half a second too long in the open. The shot cracks once, sharp and final. The sound echoes and folds into the ruins. The man drops without a cry. Helmet clatters across broken stone. The SAS patrol scatters instantly, diving for cover, weapons up, shouting warnings. They assume what every soldier assumes when a sniper fires: male, experienced, likely German, possibly Waffen-SS. They return fire at windows, doorways, shadows. But Honor has already shifted position, sliding backward from the firing point, dragging the rifle with her, careful not to silhouette herself. She moves like someone who has done this hundreds of times, because she has. Within minutes, the patrol withdraws. One man dead. No enemy sighted. By nightfall, the story has traveled. Among British and American units operating near the Rhine, whispers spread of a sniper who does not behave like the others. She does not fire twice from the same place. She waits longer than expected. She targets leaders, scouts, radio men. She disappears before counterfire can even be organized. And there is something else. The men begin to notice that the shots come from angles that do not make sense. Upper floors thought too unstable. Rubble piles dismissed as impassable. Positions assumed impossible for someone to occupy alone. Then comes the detail that unsettles even hardened veterans. Locals, half-starved civilians dragged from cellars for questioning, speak of a woman. A small figure moving through ruins at night. A ghost with a rifle. Some call her Die Rote Hex, the Red Witch. Others swear they saw long dark hair tied tight beneath a helmet. Intelligence officers dismiss it at first. Stories grow in war the way mold grows in damp places. But casualty reports do not lie. Over the next 2 weeks, SAS patrols alter their routes. U.S. Army Rangers operating in adjacent sectors begin requesting additional smoke cover during daylight movement. Platoon commanders order men to keep helmets low even behind what should be safe rubble. Sniper doctrine begins to shift in real time. What none of them know yet is that Anya Morozova is not operating under direct Soviet command anymore. Her unit was shattered weeks earlier during the push west. She refused evacuation after a mortar strike killed her spotter and buried half the platoon. Cut off, wounded, and alone, she stayed. For Anya, this is not about orders. It is about finishing what the war started for her 4 years earlier outside Kiev, when German shells turned her village into ash and left her brother's rifle lying useless in the dirt. She has learned patience beyond doctrine. Learned that fear spreads faster than bullets. Learned that if you kill the right man at the right moment, 10 others will hesitate the next time they move. From her perspective, the men below are all the same now. Different uniforms, different languages, same careful steps, same tension. The war has folded in on itself. allies and enemies crossing unknowingly through the same ruined streets. And in this narrow strip of bombed-out Germany, one woman with a rifle is about to force some of the most elite troops in the world to rethink how they fight an enemy they cannot see. Learning the shape of fear. March 17, 1945. 3 days later. The weather shifts. Rain replaces fog, turning rubble into slick, sucking mud. Water drips endlessly through collapsed roofs, a sound that erases silence and makes every movement harder to hear. This is when Anya prefers to walk. She has changed her pattern again. Instead of the upper floors, she now occupies ground-level positions buried inside debris. A shallow scrape behind a fallen masonry slab. A hollow beneath a shattered stairwell. Places no one would choose unless they understood that Allied counter-snipers now scan rooftops first. Her face is smeared with brick dust and oil. Her left shoulder aches constantly where shrapnel still rests too deep to remove. She ignores it. Pain is information, not a warning. Through the rain haze, a new patrol approaches. American this time. Uniform soaked dark, webbing heavy with water. One man carries an SCR 536 radio slung awkwardly against his chest. Another keeps glancing upward, scanning windows. Anya watches them for nearly 10 minutes. She counts steps. Notes spacing. Watches how they react to broken glass crunching under their boots. They are jumpy. Every movement is cautious. This is already her work showing results. She does not fire at the radio operator. That would be expected. Instead, she waits until a lieutenant signals a halt, leaning forward slightly to speak. Rank always reveals itself in posture. The shot comes from knee height, barely a meter above ground. The bullet punches upward through the man's jaw. He collapses backward, dead before he hits the wet stone. Chaos follows. Smoke grenades bloom instantly, white clouds hissing and expanding. The Americans fire blindly into windows and doorways, but Anya is already crawling backward, rifle hugged close, sliding into a drainage culvert she scouted days earlier. By nightfall, the reaction is no longer dismissive. A briefing is held inside a commandeered farmhouse west of Wesel. SAS troopers and U.S. Army officers crowd around a rough map pinned to a table. Mud drips from boots. Helmets rest on chairs. Faces are drawn tight with fatigue. Captain Robert Hale, SS, points to 3 red pencil marks. 3 patrol losses. Same area. Different units. Different approaches. This sniper isn't reacting, he says. She's anticipating. Someone scoffs at the word she, but no one outright rejects it anymore. An American Ranger sergeant speaks up. Whoever it is, they're not working like German doctrine. No rapid follow-up shots. No obvious fallback routes. The intelligence officer hesitates, then adds quietly, intercepted Soviet radio traffic from weeks ago mentions a sniper named Morozova. Female. High confirmed count. Reported missing after a mortar strike. The room goes still. This changes things. Not because she's a woman, but because it breaks assumptions. Every counter-sniper tactic they know is built around patterns drilled into male-dominated units. Aggression windows. Repositioning habits. Ego-driven overconfidence. Anya does not operate that way. By March 19th, orders go out. Daylight movement is reduced. Patrol spacing increases. Men are told to avoid pauses in open ground, even when terrain seems safe. Smoke is authorized not just for assaults, but for routine movement through exposed areas. She notices immediately. From her hiding places, Anya sees behavior change. Men move faster through streets they once crossed carefully. They avoid windows entirely, hugging walls. They fire preemptively into rubble piles that look wrong. She smiles once, briefly, to herself. Fear is setting in. But fear cuts both ways. The more cautious they become, the fewer clear shots she has. Her kill count slows, but her influence grows. Soldiers speak her name even when nothing happens. Patrols reroute around zones she has not fired from in days. At night, she moves. She abandons fixed heights and begins stalking routes instead of positions. She studies boot prints, discarded ration tins, cigarette butts crushed too carefully. She learns when patrols rotate, when nerves peak, when exhaustion dulls reflexes. One evening, she follows a patrol for nearly an hour without firing. She learns their rhythm, then breaks contact deliberately, letting them believe they have escaped her. The next morning, those same men move differently. Word reaches Allied command that casualties have dropped but morale has not improved. Something unseen is dictating movement. Officers complain their men hesitate even when no enemy is present. Anya is becoming more than a sniper. She is becoming terrain. Inside her mind, the war has narrowed to distances and breathing. The larger strategy no longer matters. Berlin. Moscow. None of it touches this stretch of ruins. Only the next movement. The next mistake. She cleans her rifle meticulously, hands steady despite hunger. She counts remaining rounds. 43. Enough. She does not know that Allied planners are about to escalate. That dedicated counter-sniper teams are being assembled. That bait patrols and decoys are being discussed. That her name has crossed into classified briefings. And she does not yet know that the men hunting her are about to stop thinking of her as a myth. They are about to start thinking like her. When the hunters changed shape. March 22, 1945. The ruins are quieter now, but not calmer. Artillery has shifted east, leaving behind a strange stillness broken only by distant engines and the creak of damaged buildings settling. This is the silence Anya distrusts most. Silence means preparation. At dawn, she spots the change. A patrol enters the district moving wrong. Too open. Too deliberate. 4 men crossing a street without smoke, without hugging cover. One even pauses to light a cigarette, shielding the flame with his body in a way that feels almost theatrical. Bait. Anya does not fire. She tracks them instead, widening her field of view, searching for the shape of the trap rather than the trap itself. She scans rooftops, then lowers her scope to ground level, checking for the glint of glass, the unnatural straight line of a barrel. Nothing obvious. She backs off slowly, heart rate steady. Whoever is hunting her is learning, but not well enough yet. 2 blocks away, hidden in a collapsed brewery, a British counter-sniper team lies motionless. Corporal James Whittaker, former gamekeeper turned marksman, breathes through his nose and watches the same street through a modified number 4 Lee Enfield. His spotter, a young lance corporal, whispers range estimates and wind drift. They have been told not to fire unless they are absolutely certain. They have been told the target is patient. The problem is that patience cuts both ways. Anya circles wide, taking an hour to relocate, approaching from an angle no one expects. She slips through a bomb crater filled with rainwater, emerging soaked but invisible. Her boots leave no prints on stone. She finds a new hide inside the carcass of an overturned truck, its engine long stripped, its metal shell echoing softly as she crawls inside. From here, she sees the counter-sniper team without realizing what they are. 2 shapes behind rubble. Still. Too still. Not moving like frightened men, but like men waiting. She feels the shift in the air before she consciously understands it. This is not prey. She withdraws again, heart beating harder now, pulse audible in her ears. She has killed many men, but being hunted is different. Being hunted by people trained to think the way she thinks sharpens fear into something cold and precise. By midday, the first exchange happens. An SAS scout, moving alone, pauses to check a corner. Anya sees the tension in his shoulders. He knows he is exposed. She fires once, clean, controlled. He drops instantly. Before the echo fades, a second shot cracks from somewhere she did not expect. The round slams into brick inches from her head, spraying dust and fragments into her face. She rolls, rifle tight, crawling blind as debris rains down. Another shot punches through the wall behind her, precise and patient. They have her range. Anya does not panic. Panic is noise. She stays still long enough to make them doubt, then moves fast when they least expect it, slipping through a gap in the rubble and down into a sewer access she marked weeks ago. The darkness swallows her. The smell is rot and cold water. Above ground, Whitaker lowers his rifle slowly. He did not see her clearly. Just a flicker of movement. Enough to know she is real. Enough to know she is killed. She's good, he murmurs. That night, Allied Command revises its approach again. No more relying solely on rifles. Trip flares are placed in rubble. Motion sensors are discussed, though few are available. Patrols now move with overlapping fields of observation not just for Germans, but for one sniper operating independently. Anya notices the traps the next evening. Thin wires. Fresh disturbed dust. She avoids them easily, but the message is clear. They are closing the net. She begins to feel the limits of her isolation. Ammunition is low. Food is almost gone. Infection festers in her shoulder wound. She cleans it with alcohol scavenged from a medical truck, biting down on a strip of leather to keep silent. Still, she continues. Not for ideology. Not for others. But because the men hunting her are cautious now. Because they hesitate. Because they slow their advance. Each delay buys time for Soviet units pushing west. Each delayed patrol is one less organized defense. On March 25th, she makes a mistake. Exhaustion blurs her timing. She fires from a position she should have abandoned hours earlier. The kill is clean, but the counterfire is immediate. Too immediate. A bullet tears through her coat, grazing ribs, knocking the breath from her lungs. She stumbles, recovers, and runs, no longer invisible, no longer untouchable. Flare light erupts behind her, bleaching the ruins white. Shadows stretch and twist. Shouts echo in English. For the first time in weeks, Anya is not shaping fear. She is running from it. And the men chasing her are no longer guessing. They are adapting. The night the ghost bled. March 26, 1945. Night settles heavy and wet over the ruins. Fires burn low in the distance, throwing an uneven orange glow against broken walls. The air smells of cordite and damp earth. Somewhere nearby, boots move carefully, deliberately. Too many of them. Anya presses herself into a collapsed cellar doorway, chest tight, breath shallow. Blood has soaked the inside of her coat where the round clipped her ribs. Each inhale sends a sharp reminder through her side. She forces herself to count breaths, slowing panic before it takes root. The pursuit is organized now. Flashlights flick on and off in short controlled bursts. Voices stay low. Hand signals replace shouted orders. This is not a sweep meant to scare her out. This is a hunt meant to finish her. She shifts deeper into the cellar, lowering herself onto cold stone steps slick with moisture. The darkness below is absolute. She knows this place. She marked it early in the month as a fallback but never intended to use it under pressure. She has no choice. Above her, a flare pops and hisses, washing the street in harsh white light. Shadows vanish. Every angle becomes visible. Somewhere to her left, a man slips on rubble and catches himself. The sound is small. Still, she hears it. Anya steadies the rifle against her knee and waits. A silhouette appears at the top of the cellar opening. British helmet. Rifle slung low. Careful steps. He is doing everything right. She fires once. The muzzle flash lights the cellar for a fraction of a second. The man collapses forward, blocking the entrance with his weight. His rifle clatters down the steps. Immediately, return fire slams into the doorway. Chips of stone explode inward. Dust fills the air. Anya crawls backward, deeper into the cellar, dragging her leg when it refuses to respond fast enough. A voice outside calls for smoke. Canisters clink and roar. White clouds pour into the opening, thick and choking. The world becomes sound and sensation rather than sight. This is where training meets instinct. Anya abandons the rifle. She removes the bolt, pockets it, and slides the weapon under debris. Without the boat, it is useless to anyone who finds it. She draws her Tokarev pistol, checks the magazine by touch. 3 rounds left. She moves when the smoke is thickest. Low. Slow. One hand on the wall. She slips past the fallen body, stepping over it, feeling cloth and bone beneath her boot. Outside, shapes loom and shift, but no one expects her to move forward through them. A hand grabs her sleeve. She twists, fires once. The pistol box. The man screams and goes down. She runs. Pain flares white hot through her ribs and shoulder, but adrenaline carries her across open ground she would never have crossed days earlier. A bullet snaps past her ear. Another smashes into stone beside her. Then she is gone again, swallowed by a narrow alley choked with debris. The chase lasts another hour. By the end of it, Allied teams are tense and frustrated. They have blood. They have a body. They do not have her. But something has changed. By dawn, patrols report signs of injury. Blood trails. A dropped bandage. Proof that the ghost is not untouched. Morale lifts slightly among the hunters. For the first time, they believe she can be caught. Anya spends the day hidden beneath a collapsed rail car, feverish and shaking. She cleans the wound as best she can, hands trembling. Hunger gnaws constantly now, a dull ache that never fades. She knows she cannot sustain this much longer. That evening, distant artillery grows louder again. The front is shifting. Soviet guns moving closer. The rhythm of the war is changing. She listens to the thunder of shells and understands that her window is closing. She has one more chance to matter. Not by killing another man, but by forcing them to hesitate one last time. As darkness falls on March 27th, Anya makes her decision. She will take a position she has avoided since the beginning. A place so obvious it has been dismissed. A shattered church tower overlooking a crossroads Allied units must use to advance. It is a bad position. It is also the last place they will expect her to choose now that she is wounded. She begins the climb slowly, leaving faint traces of blood on stone she cannot fully clean. Below, men prepare for night movement, unaware that the legend they believe is fading is about to show them she is still watching. The shot that outlived the war. March 27, 1945. Just before midnight. The shattered church tower rises like a broken finger against the low clouds. Its bell is gone. Its roof collapsed. The stairs inside are half missing, forcing Anya to climb by gripping exposed beams and jagged stone. Every movement sends pain through her ribs. Blood seeps again despite the bandage. She reaches the top and collapses into position. From here, she can see the crossroads clearly. 4 streets converging between ruins, the only viable route for vehicles and organized patrols moving east. She understands now why no one has used this tower. It is obvious. It is silhouetted. It is a sniper's grave. That is why it will work. Below, Allied units gather. British and American mixed. Helmets low. Weapons ready. They believe the sniper is wounded, slowing, fading. Tonight's movement is cautious but confident. Anya watches them for a long time. She does not choose the first target she sees. She waits for the moment when command gathers in the open, when orders are exchanged face to face. When radios crackle softly. The wind shifts. Her scope fogs briefly. She wipes it clear with her sleeve and steadies herself against the stone. One shot. The officer at the center of the group drops instantly, hit clean through the chest. His map falls into the mud. For a heartbeat, no one reacts. Then the crossroads explodes into motion. Men scatter. Smoke pours out. Return fire rips into the tower from every direction. Tracers carve lines through the night. Stone shatters around her. Dust and fragments tear at her face and hands. Anya fires again. A second man falls. She walks the boat slowly, deliberately, forcing herself not to rush. The third shot never comes. A round smashes into the tower, slamming her backward. Pain erupts through her body. The rifle slips from her hands and clatters against stone. She collapses hard, breath torn from her lungs. She does not know how long she lies there. Seconds or minutes. The world fades in and out, sound distant and hollow. When she tries to move, her legs do not respond. Below, the crossroads is silent again. No advance. No movement. The units pull back, dragging wounded, calling off the push. The delay lasts hours. By morning, Soviet artillery reaches the outskirts. Red Army units pour through areas the Allies were meant to secure overnight. The front line jumps forward abruptly, reshaping the final days of the campaign in this sector. When Allied troops return to the church tower later that day, they find her barely conscious, pinned beneath fallen stone. The rifle lies nearby, both missing. A British medic kneels beside her, startled when her eyes open. She does not resist. Anya Morozova is taken alive. In interrogation reports later declassified, officers note the same thing again and again. She answers calmly. Gives her name, rank, and nothing else. She asks only one question in return. Did they stop moving? They did. After the war, her story spreads unevenly. Among Soviet veterans, she becomes a symbol of endurance. Among SAS and U.S. units, a lesson is quietly passed down. That assumptions kill. That fear can be shaped by one disciplined mind. That underestimating an enemy because of gender, doctrine, or expectation can cost lives. Sniper tactics change. Counter-sniper teams study patience differently. Training manuals emphasize adaptability over pattern. And somewhere in the margins of history, beyond the official kill count and citations, one truth remains. For several weeks in the ruins of Germany, one wounded woman with a rifle forced some of the most elite troops in the world to slow down, rethink, and fear the ground beneath their feet. Not because she was unstoppable, but because she understood how men move when they believe they are being watched.